Welcome to the High Ticket Success Podcast, where premium coaches, consultants, and advisors come for bold strategies, big breakthroughs, and real results. I'm your host, Dave Dubeau.
You know, one of my favorite ways of connecting with people is at live events. There's nothing that quite matches that energy, that vibe, that personal connection than meeting somebody face to face, toe to toe, so to speak. And an even better way to do that is to put on your own events and speak on your own stage. And today's special guest, zooming in from Fort Lauderdale, knows a thing or two or three or four about doing exactly that. Michelle Villalobos has been in the speaking space for quite some time. You wouldn't know it for looking at her lovely, youthful face, but she's been speaking publicly for a long time. She's very, very good at it. And she helps folks like us, coaches, consultants, advisors, gather groups of our ideal avatar and get them in rooms with us and do workshops and events like that. So Michelle, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you so much, Dave.
So Michelle, give me a little, just the Coles Notes version of how you came across the idea of not just speaking on other people's stages, but putting on your own events to generate business that way.
Yeah, well, it started actually before I even started my own company. I was working in a magazine at the time. This was the early mid 2000s, and the magazine industry was already on its way down. The writing was on the wall. And in order to make money selling advertisements, I had to give away sponsorships to our events because our parties, everyone wanted to go to our parties. So I was like, well, if I can't sell them 6 monthly ads, let me sell them the party and give them the ads for free. And that's how it started.
Smart. Beautiful. Just out of curiosity, what kind of magazine was it?
It was a Hispanic lifestyle publication called Ocean Drive Espanol. So it was the Spanish language version, but not copied content of a very popular lifestyle magazine in Miami that you might know of called Ocean Drive.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, so that's how you kind of clued into that. And then fast forwarding, you start your own business.
Yeah.
When did you start bringing your own events into your own business? And tell us.
Very quickly. I mean, I joined the Miami Beach Chamber and they needed somebody to lead a sales workshop. And I volunteered myself because I'd been in sales for years. And people afterwards just came up to me and said, oh, how can I work with you? And I was like, ding, ding, ding. This is like the best marketing I've ever done. Mm-hmm. People coming to me. So I very quickly started leading my own workshops. And one thing led to another. I mean, that was 18 years ago. And, I've evolved it over the years. It's changed from leading mostly workshops to leading multi-day retreats. I'm a big believer in going deeper, longer with clients than the quick one and dones.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's zoom out for a second here, Michelle. So let's say that our viewer is somebody who is a very good, coach or consultant, and they are struggling to kind of come up with a regular lead flow for their business. How could they start thinking about events as a way to connect with their ideal prospects? What would you suggest they do?
Well, the first thing is kind of what you just said. I want to expand on that a little, which is think about workshops and speaking as the front end of the business, not the business itself. And that was the mistake I made. And that's a mistake, I think, a mistake that a lot of people make, which is they think, let me make the money on the workshop, on the event, on the ticket sales, on the sponsorships, whatever, like on the initial event. And my whole thing is actually bring them in, get them in the door, give them such a powerful experience, and then really make the big money and the big impact on the back end. And I call that the big back end, which is the recurring revenue over time of building a long-lasting relationship with a coaching client in a group format.
Right. Okay. So let's say somebody says, that sounds like a great idea. I've never put on an event before. I'm not a superstar public speaker like Michelle Villalobos. What baby steps would you recommend people do if they're not quite ready to, put on a 3-day event or something like that? What would you recommend as like the initial?
The baby step is really to get some one-on-one clients. And
let's assume they've done that already.
Okay. Because I think it's important that people have a framework that they know works for transformation.
Yeah.
Once you have a framework that you know works for transformation, what I would do, what I did do was invite your one-on-one clients to spend 3 days with you in a container that you create. And so that you can start delivering in a format that's safe, where you feel confident, where these people trust you, and you can start.
So sorry, I'm understanding that you're getting them to come in individually for 3 days?
No, together.
A number of them. Okay.
Together. Yeah. So that my first retreat was 4 people. It was my 4 one-on-one clients that I brought together. So they had that first initial 3-day experience together. I got some experience delivering a 3-day format. And ultimately, 3 of those 4 people ended up joining my year-long program.
Interesting. So you'd first connected with them on a shorter term one-on-one engagement of some sort. Then you invited them to a little retreat, mastermind, whatever you want to call it, kind of thing. And then you rolled them. Okay. Very, very interesting. Now that's cool stuff, Michelle. It kind of brings back memories for myself way back in the day, 20 plus years ago. I had a little local marketing thing. It was called Doorknob Ads. And it was basically like a hotel do not disturb sign on steroids with different local businesses with ads on that. And we'd get those on the front door of every single house in the town, which was a horrendous pain. It was a terrible business model, just getting the things out the door. But anyhow, and I remember distinctly, I sucked at sales. So I'd get in the car, I'd go cold calling on businesses. I'd have to psych myself up. I'd march in. They'd look up, excited to see a new customer, look disappointed when they realized there was another sales guy, and then, massive rejection. And then I came up with the idea, why don't I get together a couple of non-competing business owners? Let's put together a little business builder workshop. Let's promote it to all of the local businesses, which we did, and got, whatever, 75 people out, which is pretty good.
That's amazing.
And then I did a half an hour presentation on how to create a super effective direct response ad. Right. And then had a little bundle of, hey, sign up for my doorknob ad thing. Exactly. And had people, and this is for advertising, had people running to the back of the room with their credit cards to prepay.
That's amazing, Dave.
Yeah. That's the power of doing an event, because you're now automatically seen as an authority when you're standing up there teaching versus just another salesperson.
Which is why, and with my model, there's speaking on the front end, my own workshops, speaking on other people's stages, creating my own stages. The 3-day is an event. I'm leading it. It creates even more trust, deeper connection and relationship, and sets up the long-term 1 year. In the 1 year, I'm leading, I'm guiding, and then people stay for year after year after year.
Yeah, very cool. Is there any, in your experience, and you've done this a ton, so is there any place for like an initial free or very low cost workshop-y thing as an initial lead generator that might feed into something?
Absolutely. So one of my 3 top ways that I drive leads. So one of them is speaking. One of them is referrals from existing clients and people who know me. But the third is YouTube. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I have 800 plus videos giving away content and just inviting people to be on my email list to get more content. And then I do a webinar about once a quarter. So that free webinar is where I make the offer for my 3-day intensive.
Well, that brings up another question I wanted to ask you, Michelle. Virtual versus live. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about because you do both. So where does one work better than the other? Where do you recommend people have those in?
Well, the front end marketing is almost all virtual, except for when I do a live speaking engagement, but everything else is virtual. And my 3-day until March of 2020 was always live in person. Now it's virtual. I do a 3-day.
Still. Yeah.
Yeah. Ever since COVID, ever since the lockdown. So I've kept it that way because it worked so well, and it allowed me to bring in experts and coaches from around the country, even around the world, and not have to fly them all in, put them up in a hotel. It's, a much better It's much more cost effective that way.
It's just bringing back memories, Michelle, because prior to COVID, my business model was based on live workshops and events.
Me too.
And I was so proud of myself. I wasn't near as organized as you are, but I was so proud of myself that I had 2020 all booked out. I had speaking engagement. I had everything lined up for the first time in my life.
See what they say? Remember that line, like man plans and God laughs?
Oh, man, was it? And so it was like, the world collapsed momentarily. And then, I had to make, like everybody, like you did, I had to make that pivot. And my one-day live event turned into a one-day virtual workshop and da-da-da-da. And it worked so well.
It worked so
So much better. And there was so much less risk in cost.
Stress and risk,
God.
expense.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it wasn't just for me. It was for the clients better too. They got access to more experts that couldn't have had in person. So it worked out great.
Well, that's so so when you're doing speaking engagements now, are you doing in-person speaking or virtual or both or what do you? Yeah.
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
A good mix, maybe even half and half, I love the live in person, and there's a limit, right? I have a house and a dog and a life that I want to hang out in, so I don't want to be on the road all the time. And that's, another thing for speakers in particular, like at the beginning of speaking, it seems so glamorous to be on the road, 10, 12 times a month. But now, when you're doing this kind of model and you're able to create that back end, you only need one or two, not even sometimes, to fill this type of model. You don't need a ton of volume if you don't want it. Some people love the idea of being in front of hundreds and thousands of people. I don't need that to have a very successful, very profitable, very joyful, fulfilling business.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. So if somebody's watching this and obviously they need to get more in-depth ideas about this, but big, broad strokes, if you already mentioned that you get a few clients together and then have a 3-day workshop, but let's say we're looking at the lead gen model.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to people? Because not everybody's up to the whole idea of starting a YouTube channel and that sort of thing. Is there kind of like just a very base model version of a process people might consider going through to create events to fill their funnel?
Yeah. I think that to each her, I always say to people, you do you, boo. You've got to find the front end that aligns with your personality, and all that. I've done a lot of different things on the front end that have all worked to varying degrees. YouTube has been one of the latest and greatest. But in the old days, I would just network. I was shaking hands and kissing babies. I was out all the time. Twice a week, I was at a networking event. I was just meeting people. I joined a BNI chapter and I used my BNI to fill my workshops. And that worked great for several years. So I don't have a one size fits all. It kind of depends on your personality. Some people are very gregarious. They love to be out and about. Some people are more mechanical. They want, maybe a Google Ads campaign or a Facebook ads or Instagram or something like that. So I don't have a one size fits all. What I've seen work really well is networking in person, referral marketing, online with YouTube content marketing, webinar affiliate marketing, which I have not used extensively, but one of my clients has. She did once a year, she ran a mini summit, like a telesummit online. Yeah. And that was a big driver of leads and emails into her list. And she, used her list very effectively. At the end of the day, one of the most fundamental strategies that I think works across the board is email marketing. I really still believe in it. I use it. It works. When I have, I haven't nailed every single time sending that email and getting a ton of responses, but it happens often enough that I know it's there if I just do it right, if I say the right thing, if I have the right message.
So your personal model, if I understood correctly, Michelle, right now is you're doing lead generation, however that's looking, getting people into that initial monthly webinar or quarterly. What was it?
Quarterly webinar.
Quarterly webinar.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got
monthly, I do have monthly something called the spotlights, which is like a group discovery call.
Oh, okay.
Because when people come into my list, I am kind of triaging based on qualification. So some people can get straight onto my calendar, having a meeting right away. And some people are not necessarily clearly there yet. So we invite them into a monthly group conversation, basically.
Nice.
It's a group call that kind of mimics the style of my group coaching.
Right. And it's basically a group discovery call is what it is exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then where do your 3-day more in-depth events come in?
That's usually what, 90% of people, that's the first thing they buy. If they're a right fit, which is, maybe 1 out of every 3 or 4 people I talk to, I'll invite into the 3-day intensive.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
And how often do you do those typically?
3 times a year.
Okay. Very good. So that makes a lot of sense. And then that 3-day intensive leads into your one-on-one coaching.
Which, I have a one-on-one coaching, but it's priced such that it's really not for most people. My goal is to get people into that group 3-day format.
Great. So 3-day event into a year-long group.
A 1-year group program.
God, makes
high
sense.
ticket, small group, very personalized. I do one-on-one coach inside of that, and that's not the primary feature of it.
Right.
And then from there, it's a 2-year renewal.
And what are you primarily coaching people about? Is it about this methodology? Is it about public speaking? Is it about bundling everything in together? How do you help folks?
Pretty much, it's a combination. I'd say if I were to divide it into 2 big buckets, it's the inner work and the outer work. So the inner work, of getting in alignment, energy, meditation, shadow work, a lot of that. And then the outer work of structuring, strategizing, marketing, messaging, and all of that. So those are the 2 big buckets. And so 3 times a year, I do the business breakthrough, which is very strategic in nature. We have accountability coaches in our program that support people in that. And then twice a year, we gather and we do the inner work. We do 4-day, 5-day deep dives. And then once a year, everybody comes together and focuses on getting on a stage, delivering their message, and getting a whole bunch of footage that they can use to market and promote themselves.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And who's kind of your ideal client that you like to work with, Michelle? Who do you work with?
Ideally, it's someone who's already established in business, like a speaker, a thought leader, who doesn't currently have any sort of group intensive high ticket offering, like a mastermind, a sisterhood, a brotherhood, a group coaching program, something like that. Somebody who wants to lead that type of group. And generally they come in wanting to do retreats, but retreats by themselves don't have that back end. So I pretty quickly, I'm like, hey, if you're going to put 10 people, 15 people in a room, you might as well offer something after that.
Yeah, most definitely. Very, very smart. Michelle, I'm sure there's probably people that would like more of you. They'd like to connect with you. They'd like to get into your world. How can they do that?
Yeah, well, probably a good place to start would be my Retreats to Riches roadmap. If somebody's interested in leading retreats, in particular 3-day intensives, even if they're not like fancy, exotic resort type of retreats, but retreats like mine, which are 3-day business intensives, any kind of it, any type of that model works. They can go to retreats2richesroadmap.com to download that for free. And there's also a revenue calculator they'll get with that to help them project how much money they could make with this model. And my YouTube channel is a great resource for free information.
And they just look up your name to get to the YouTube channel. That would do it?
Yeah, miss me on there. Even if you just search Retreats Business, you should be able to see me number 1 or 2.
Awesome, Michelle. Hey, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Take care. See ya on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the High Ticket Success Podcast. Want to be featured? Share your story and inspire other premium coaches, consultants, and advisors? Apply now at highticketsuccesspodcast.com/guest.